Not with that breath either. He's like way overdue for a dentist visit.
Got him that sweater like 3 days ago, and it's already like brown on the bottom just because he's short.
He's a little filthy.
He's short legged, filthy. All right, want to jump right into it?
Yeah, let's go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sex Actually podcast. Your host, Dave Neal, Tasha Cordy, and Charlene deGuzman. How are you?
Welcome.
Good. Thanks for having me.
I know you don't know us, but we got to watch your film last night, so we feel like we know you.
Yeah.
And
it's strange seeing you jump from the screen to like in our living room.
It's called Unlovable, but we loved you.
Oh.
It was very sweet.
Good.
And it's a film about sex and love addiction.
Yes.
Which is great because we're the Sex Actually podcast. I don't know. Well, I think my addiction is more of a codependency. That's my thing. But I appreciate the 12-step program with how like you have to like acknowledge what's wrong with you.
Right.
How does someone who's just like a cheery, smiley person figure out that they're fucked up?
I always say, because people ask me all the time, like, well, how do you know it's an addiction? Like, sex and love are necessary parts of life. Isn't, drama and romance and obsession, all that kind of stuff, just a part, like, of real life, and it's just normal? But, for me, when it destroys your life, it's something to look at. If you can't leave your partner after 17 times, there's a problem. If you're having sex with an unavailable person just to get a crumb of attention, there might be a problem.
Yeah.
For me, I almost killed myself because my ex-boyfriend didn't text me back after I hooked up with him. So I knew then that I needed to really get some help.
Like after you started, like when the relationship was early on, he wouldn't get back to you, or just?
I mean, he was unavailable from the get-go, but of course I pursued him, and then I started the program to try to save the relationship because it was just shit. So then we broke up after 30 days, and then I slept with him after a few months after that, and then he ghosted me after that. And then the pain at that point, I think since even having a little bit of recovery, like hurt so bad that I just thought I was crazy and I wanted to die.
So this is your story. This is autobiographical.
It's semi-autobiographical. It's based on some of my experiences and like experiences of a sex and love addict, but it's not exactly my story, but a lot of it's in there.
Because we're all psychos when we don't get the response in time. I mean, Tasha, so we've been dating for 5 years or going on 5 years, and I'm still like yesterday, you didn't even respond back to me. You just sent me a photo, and I was like, what the fuck, Tasha? Sorry, I'm not making this about me, but I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm out here working, and I'd like, you know what I mean? I don't know. And I was like, is this the silent treatment where you'll send me a photo back, but
sometimes
nothing?
You're just busy doing other things. That's really all it comes down to, babe. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Do you? I mean, if you had the secret to getting over the neediness of needing a text message back, you'd be rich, right? Because it's
I have a solution though, because it worked for me.
Okay, let's hear it.
Learning how to love yourself and filling that void yourself, because nobody else can do it. It'll only be temporary and fleeting until you fill it yourself.
That sounds too hard.
It is the hardest thing to do, but it's the most important.
It is the most important, and we've talked about that on here before. It was nice to see in the film, one of Melissa Leo's rules was like find something to do. But find something to do. And it's true that like a lot of people write in and they say, I'm not finding anyone, I'm looking for the one, like nothing's working out. And it's like, well, you've got to love yourself first. You've got to be committed to yourself, your own hobbies. Don't drop your hobbies as soon as a guy comes into your life. Like, that's not productive. People are going to love you because you are passionate about things that make you happy.
Yeah, because before recovery, I didn't even, because I got into recovery and had to get, sober off dating sex guys, whatever, I realized I had no idea who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what made me happy. I didn't know what my purpose was. I seriously didn't know who I was because I was always trying to be what I thought these guys wanted me to be. And so it was a big shock to realize, I had no idea what I liked.
How did you find those things? What were your things?
Well, one of those things was writing, and that's why in 2014, when I started recovery, I wrote a pilot based on my experiences in 5 days. And that's actually what I sent to Marc Duplass, where he emailed me the next day and was like, I want to meet you and I want to make a movie.
And that was a cold call to an amazing...
It was a DM.
Yeah.
On Twitter?
To
Wow.
a filmmaker who's doing shit in town. I mean, he's that's not a nobody. That's and so were you was it therapeutic for you to just send it off, or you're like, no, he'll get back to me right away?
Well, because a year before that, he had started following me on Twitter, and I sent him a DM that just said, "Oh my God, thanks for following me. You're one of my heroes." And he wrote back, "If you ever have anything that you've written that you want to send, just send it over." But I hadn't had anything at that point.
Oh, amazing.
But a year later, I did, and so I sent it.
How long was your process? You said 5 days writing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's like my addictive energy. It's just like, as long as I focus to something good, then it's like...
You're all in. Up all night, scribbling on the floor.
Well, I can't speak for everybody, but I think in entertainment, we all have addictive energy. Just do stand-up comedy, and I'm just like a psycho. Yeah, like why aren't you even looking at? And it's like 99% of the time, or probably 100% of the time, it's not you. It's just people are doing their own shit. But we focus it on these insults. Like our egos, like just wants that attention, and it must be really hard with writing because you're not getting any instant feedback. You're letting out. But you're not getting any of those affirmations.
But sometimes letting out is the most therapeutic thing.
Really great, yeah.
Well, and I think that's part of like sharing is so powerful at 12-step. You know, like that's when people get so emotional saying and listening is because there's a release. We hold really all of that stuff inside of us, store it like deep in our tissues. And, you know, a lot of the times you don't know who to talk to. You don't have an outlet. Or if you're talking to your friends, you minimize how you're really feeling. Yeah. And so to be able to be truly open and honest is like earth shattering.
It is. It's powerful.
And it's not rare that we look in how we can please other people. Like you said, you were looking to fill, you know, what did guys want, you know? And that's a scary thought because what guys are just, I mean, not to clump us all together, but we want sex and rowdiness. I mean, to a point where we graduate from that, there's like your 20s are not a time to want to know what the guys want. Like, I mean, there's exceptions to that, but it's like there's a lot of experimenting going on with like finding out who you are and stuff. So it's not, I mean, I still don't know what I want, but I'm not like, I don't know. I think we know each other's addictions and we know what triggers each other to the point where like, I can't tell Tasha to calm down. I say it as a joke sometimes. I'm like, Tasha, just calm down. And she goes, why did I just like, I know that if I tell her what to do remotely, she's like growl at me. And it's like, you know, you have to learn in a way how to deal with each other's issues. But it must be tough though when people don't know what your triggers are. Because in the end, it's like you have to really be the first one to like draw the line in the sand to say like, this is what I'm not okay with.
Yeah.
Like, how did
Yeah, I'm actually curious. In the end of the movie, Melissa Leo said,
don't spoil
we've
anything.
got to work on like your dating steps.
I did a dating plan. What
does that entail? I mean, it sounds so complicated because it's like, okay, let's tell an alcoholic how to walk into a bar and like be okay. Right. It's like a very scary.
It is.
Well, to get to the dating plan, can I just do a brief without spoiling anything? So basically, you find out you have an addiction. You find out that like you know you think it's really not that big of a deal, and then it just, you know, rock bottom, right?
You're hurting the people that you love. You're hurting yourself.
And then in the 12-step program, they want you to be 30 days sober. And that's like your first goal is to just make it to 30 days.
Yeah.
And is that just a big step because early on it's really tough to commit?
Yes, because I know from my personal experience, even hearing 30 days, I was like, how do you do 30 days? For me, it was like, it was just the 30 days even not contacting your ex. Which was like, what? But then once I got to the 30 days, I remember coming back and being excited. I'm like, what's next? And they're like, another 30 days. And I was like, fuck no.
I thought there was a parade of dicks waiting for me at the end of the 30 days. What are we doing?
Oh my gosh. So I just had to do it like 30 at a time because it was so fucking hard.
Listen, I understand 30 days when you want to text an ex. I've had a few very toxic breakups where like I had moved across the country, or I just like uprooted my own like who I was. So I put all of my energy into that, receiving that text message to the point where you're weighing how many texts you received versus sent, the quality of the text. Did they ask you questions back? Like, it's not good enough just to receive a text. At first, that's all it is. Like, just get the text back. I got it. All right, that's like your heroine. And I was like, okay, but they're not furthering the conversation. What the fuck are they doing right now? Then you go on their Facebook and you see that they just deleted a photo they posted, and you're like, who the fuck's in that photo? It's gone now. But it was, and that's like a real thing, and it's a spiral, man.
Yes.
So you make it to 30 days. How Was that the hardest part, or what was that?
Yeah, I feel like I was probably crying and in pain for the first 100 days, I feel like, with like in major withdrawal, like withdrawing from any kind of substance. It's the same exact thing. Like I was in pain.
And it also, along with the sobriety, is no alcohol as well.
Well, for me, I think I drank sometimes, but it didn't help me with my other areas of sobriety, so I probably stayed away. But it's different for everybody. In the program, like you find out what your like bottom lines are, and so that could be different for people, whether that's like porn, masturbating, or talking to a specific person. For me, on my plan, it was sober was like no contacting the ex, no masturbation, no sex, no dating, no flirting, like no intriguing with people through text or, strangers and all that kind of stuff.
It's kind of like how Tasha's got to go on a diet where she eliminates a lot of different foods because she has Lyme disease, and then you have to limit. She just found out today she can't have eggs, and she's like,
I'm so bummed. I'm like addicted
but you gotta, like,
to RX bars, and they have eggs in them.
But the thing that's going on,
like 10,000 in there. If you need an RX bar,
people are literally going just to like red meat, and then from there, if you can do that for a month, then you bring back a little bit of salad, or you bring back other things. Like that's what you have to do for your diet to like know what the triggers were or what was fucking you up. And with an addiction, do you bring back? Do you go, okay, I made it 90 days, I can masturbate now?
Well, I went a whole year without it because masturbating was a hard one for me. So I did a year, but I went a whole year and a half like sober off stuff. No dating, no guys, no nothing. And then I brought in a dating plan because it was time. And I knew it was time because I was telling friends that I'm so happy and I could be single forever. And that's a miracle because at that point before, I had my first boyfriend when I was 12 and I had jumped from boyfriend to boyfriend to boyfriend.
Wow.
To boyfriend.
And that's the detached power that you feel.
Oh, it was
to
so
say, I'm good, I'm all right.
Actually be like, wow, I could be single forever because I'm having a great time. Like, I love my life.
And there's such a difference between like being single and going on lots of dates because, that's sort of like what we hear about and talk about. It's like when you're single, it's like, yes, it's working on yourself, but it's also like meeting people. But for you, being single was just doing you.
I know.
And being happy doing
I got so
you.
much done. Like, it's like I made a movie,
I can see why you would want to be
so
single
clear.
forever.
Like putting the focus on myself, like to see my potential was kind of amazing.
Hey, it goes both ways with men too. It's like when we're single guys, that's my biggest fear is like, am I not doing enough that now that we've got Netflix and Sunday nights together? It used to be my Sunday single would be like, I'd go for a long run and it was like me. And now it's like, what time are you coming home? And I'm making like butternut squash. And I'm like, is this, and it's great. but what we have to focus on now is getting back to that place. That balance. Yeah. Where we're also doing our own things, which it's sort of like a pendulum that's sort of like riding its way.
You don't want it swinging too far in either direction.
Yeah. But when Tasha and I met, I'm pretty sure you were so detached. I think you gave up on men altogether. I think when we were friends, you were like, I'm done dating men. And that's when I was like, well.
Yeah, I think I was maybe in that place for a little while. After a breakup, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is very hard. And, trying to meet new people, it can be fun and exciting, but it can also be disappointing. And so.
A lot of people will place their anger, though, after a breakup or whatever life events happen. A lot of people place their anger outward. Like, was there any like accusing other people of being the reason that you were fucked up? And I mean, we're all fucked up,
absolutely. That was such a big part of my recovery was like seeing how when I wrote it out of like all of these guys that I was mad at, it's like it just like starts like obviously with my parents, like being mad at my parents for being these ways and then swearing to myself that like I would never end up with people like my parents or be like my parents. And then of course ending up like my parents and dating my parents. And then blaming it on them, but seeing that every single guy I even chose, it's not like they even lied to me. Right off the bat, they were like, I'm not looking for a relationship. I just want to hook up. Like, I'm not that into you. Like, very clear from the get-go, but me falling in love.
Red flags that you're just painting white.
Yeah.
You got that spray paint. You're like, all right, let's this red flag doesn't belong.
I think I saw the red flags and I was like, that's so pretty.
Well, what I loved is in the movie, you use a bar as like the central, like one of your triggers, where it's like if you show up to this bar, bad things are going to happen.
Act out.
Yeah, like I just loved that was like a very simple and specific place. It wasn't
so that
like
you knew that what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, and it was that like that in real life, or like are you like, oh, I can't go to Cabo Cantina, or is it like, you know?
No, I don't think I had a specific spot, but it's definitely, you know, drinking was definitely, when I look back at my 20s, especially when I did drink a lot, it was always because I was trying to like get over someone. Like now when I even look back at like the drinking problem, it was like, oh, it's because I didn't want to feel the feelings about this other thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's 2018. Like, I think we're a lot more respectful of people's addictions and what their issues are, because we've all got them in our own sort of thing, whatever we deal with. But, you know, guys like David Duchovny went to sex. He was a sex addict, and people just like laughed about it, like, oh, Dave's fucking too much. I mean, like,
sad.
is it something that wasn't being taken seriously? Because you started this like, what, 4 years ago, this process?
Yeah, it's just like, there's such a stigma on it. And what I find interesting too is like, because there's the program Sex Addicts Anonymous, but there's Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, which is the one I did. And it's like so different and specific. And I feel like so many people can relate to it, but we don't even know about it. So the first time my friend even told me about it and I like read the characteristics, I was like, oh my God, to see like my life like written out as like a list.
What would you say some of the characteristics are?
Mistaking things for love, like dependency, physical attraction, sexual attraction, rescuing, being saved.
So how do you know if it's love when you do get your dating, like when you go to the dating plan?
For me, because like, so the dating plan is like you have to get to know a person before you commit to them or have sex with them. Because for me, before then, I was sleeping with people immediately. Like I wasn't
as
even
soon as
dating.
you met them.
Like as soon as I met them, like drunk, you know, not knowing them at all, and then like thinking I'm in love with them.
And then like working backwards from there.
Yeah, like all of my boyfriends were just like one night stands that stuck.
Which could work for some people, but it's probably not the right thing if you know, it's like.
Well, we've talked about that. I have my own personal views that I've shared on the podcast for a couple years now, is that I appreciate an old fashioned style of dating.
It works.
It makes such a difference because then you don't have something happens when you have sex that connects you to another person. Chemicals. I mean, it's so it is. It's chemicals.
Oh,
it's
Tasha's
so intimate.
oxytocin just like punched me in the face when we
shut up.
She was like, oh, what are you doing later? I was like, I gotta go to a show. Oh, okay. And like started walking with her burrito I just got her, and I was like, oh, what? Where did that come from?
All right, but what I was trying to say is that, you know, it's so intimate, like literally letting another person enter inside of you. It's a very vulnerable experience, and there's so much to be gleaned from just having a simple date with someone, a simple conversation, not having any expectation that we're even going to kiss or definitely not have sex on the first date. You know, plan some time to get to know somebody. Let them like woo you, you know, let them like prove to you that they are worthy of you. And if someone's not right for you, you'll learn within those first few days.
And you walk away.
Yeah.
See, can I tell you about this plan that I did?
Yes, please.
So it's basically, for my plan that I did, it was like the first month, it's one date per week, and it's a day date. So it's like a coffee date, like outside, like broad daylight, sober.
Clear standards. Like clear.
1 to 2 hours, like, you know, very... It has to be structured for a love addict, because like before it would be like, I'm in love with you, and then now we're like going to Mexico for a weekend, you know, like that kind of shit. Like to just stay away from that.
Yeah,
stuff.
you only get one date per week, so like you're not allowed to.
Sounds like every Matthew McConaughey film. Like, I love you. We're going to Mexico. All right, cool. It's like, didn't we just watch that rom-com?
That's a fantasy.
Yeah,
and then like the second month, if you make it that far, it's like now you can do a night date, but it's still like 1 or 2 a week. Texting in between, because like that would be bad for me too, because I get like obsessed, and then all of a sudden I'm like not paying attention to my day because I'm texting all day.
How did you limit that?
Just not doing it, and if you have something urgent, just call the person.
Because once you get rolling in a text convo, you just start. It just becomes a thing.
It's just
and the
a
dopamine.
hit for me.
It's lottery. And these cell phones, like Facebook, they're all built by like casino programmers.
Gamification. That's what they call it.
They're built to keep your attention. So you get a bing, Pavlovian, and then it just becomes like, it's
tech
a fucking
addiction is a huge thing nowadays. Video game addiction. They're putting more and more kids into programs.
Oh my
There
God.
needs to be, and I've said this before, there needs to be an app where if you want to send a text, it routes through like 8 of your friends, and a majority of them have to approve of it before it goes out. Wouldn't that be a great thing to have? To be like, I mean, that doesn't solve your
When
issue.
you're late at night drunk texting your ex.
And it's like, and at least like 30% have to approve of it. And if one of your 2 of your friends like, no, you're not sending that out, then it's like the goalie keeping you.
That's
I don't know.
actually really smart.
Yeah.
And then the third month, you can do. Did we have it where we had a part where we were sleeping over at each other's places, but then we still weren't having sex? But it was cool because I got, like, for me, I went on a couple of dates where I only made it to date 2. And it was so cool because it was like, I knew so clearly that I wasn't into these guys. Like, they were great, but I'm like, I don't like this guy. And then I was able to walk away.
And no hurt feel,
I never had sex with them. So it was like, oh my God. Like, that blew my mind so much afterwards to be like, I didn't even have to have sex with them.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm not like in love with them for the next year. Like,
wasting your time on the wrong person.
Now, are they?
Yeah.
How transparent are you with them of what you need?
Well,
and did it scare anyone
Do you
away?
give them
both
like
of
a
them-
heads up
both
immediately?
of them like knew who I was, so they knew because especially even with my social media and stuff, I'm just very out about my story and everything. So like they knew what was going on and they knew what my plan was. But it wasn't until I met I knew my boyfriend as like an acquaintance at this point, but we reconnected and had so much in common when we were really talking, and like we realized we both needed the same thing of like needing to find someone who goes really slow because we have very similar issues and similar childhood trauma. And so it was so interesting to be talking and be like, oh, like we're looking for the same thing. So we like tried the plan, but it like kept going because it was so great. Like, so even like we did the first kiss after a month, and that was like the most insane first kiss I've ever had because I've always just been drunk and hooked up.
Yeah.
I never had a first kiss.
It's got to be like giving up sugar and then eating an apple.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, nature's the secret.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what it was like. So it was just so wonderful. Like, it really showed like how the plan is a good idea for people like me.
Yeah, or just people in general who are trying to, like, I don't know, get to that next level.
Yeah.
And is this a standard plan or something that you took of what the 12 steps were offering and you kind of made it work?
Yeah, because you have to like make it work for what you need. Because like for me, it was just about slowing it down as much as possible, since I'm usually the one to be like, I just want to marry you right away.
Now, everyone's got different levels where, like, there's plenty of, friends, or we all know, that are struggling with alcoholism where they have to go every day. They've got to go to meetings every day. Like, is there pressure there either within you or within the community to be constantly working on your...
I think it's different for everybody.
Did you feel like you were sort of like conquering it at any point and then slipped, or was it like...
Definitely. I had a few slips. I remember my first slip was a stupid slip because I checked my ex-boyfriend's like social media, which was on one of my bottom lines, which seems really silly, and that's why I didn't like count it as a slip.
You said bottom line it's a no-go.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
So like my sponsor at the time, though, when she noticed it, when I told her so casually, she was like, "Oh, that's one of your bottom lines," and I was like, "But it's just I just looked at his Facebook, but it was just like it counted." And I remember like crying so hard because I was such a perfectionist kind of A+ student kind of person. So to like have gone 6 months and then like
have that huge setback.
ruin it because I looked at his Facebook
Does that
page.
mean you have to go all the way back and go, oh man?
But that was a good lesson because
I
think a good thing, a part of my recovery was learning how to be an imperfect person with flaws. And like, that's when you really get to practice loving yourself, because it's easy to do it when you look perfect and everything's great. Can you still love and be gentle with yourself when it doesn't look that great or how you want it to look like?
And of course, having these boundaries, it's good because it gives you the structure to know when you've crossed the line somewhere.
Yes.
Which might sound, people listening, it might sound like not, not crazy to go look at someone's social media, but it's like if you have a porn addiction, geez, you start to, and then next thing you know,
It's
you
a
click on the
slippery
wrong
slope.
thing.
And you don't want to be like cutting corners or like little cheats. You know, those add up to big cheats.
Yeah, you can't do the little.
Made me think, am I addicted to porn? Made me think like, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think you're addicted to porn.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Are you watching porn in secret that I don't know about?
Well, like here and there, but like I'm not, some people be like, and then the third hour, I finally settled on the video I want. I was like, well, no, I've got better time management than that. But once in a while, you like stumble on something. The internet's a
if it
vile
destroys
place.
your life, it's something to look at. That is always like the factor.
Well, it makes you wonder. We're watching this, and I go, well, I don't think I've got sex addiction, but love addiction. I mean, yeah, right? How do you not have that? I don't see. I was raised by wolves. Apparently, like I'm not your normal dude. I'm just not like my mom and my sister. Like I'm just like I have more of a feminine energy with love. Maybe not other things, I'm still like a kind of a douche, but with that, do you know what I mean? You're looking at me like,
no, you do. You have like a very sensitive heart. You have like a very like feminine, sensitive outlook, I think, on relationships.
But I get so like hurt, and then I'll feel better when, like yesterday, we weren't in a like. I accidentally didn't lock Tasha's car, and someone stole her glasses out of her car, and she beat me up over it, not physically, but I felt so bad. I was like, I didn't mean to. The only reason the car wasn't locked was because I was rushing to get us to the Red Sox game. Go Sox! And and then you felt bad probably because like someone went into your car. That's fucking.
Well, more so, like, I don't keep any valuables in my car. So, like, they didn't get a hold of anything good, but they did take something that's a huge pain in the ass to replace.
Yeah.
My glasses. I got to go get a new prescription. Like, come on.
Tasha's kind of OCD because she's like, why is the transponder out? And I'm like, well, I didn't take it out. And we're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Some dude was sitting in your car. That's just so, oof. But then yesterday.
But I wasn't being hard on you. I just needed a few minutes to process my feelings.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, I know. But I'm just like the dog who's like waiting for the bone. Like, are we still good? And then yesterday I was like, oh, send me some photos from the game. And you sent me like 5 photos and didn't respond. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And then I FaceTime you because I was out at work, and I FaceTime her. And then, we're fine. But I was like, okay, I feel better. That can't be good. Like I don't possess the thing some guys say, like my way or the highway. Like that we would have been donezo day 2. Second bagel, done. No go. Because you can't have a guy who's like my way or the highway, because you'll be like, bye. You know what I mean?
Well, that's how you know we're a good pair, babe.
Yeah, my addiction. You know what I mean? But I wonder.
I think you're onto
guests
something.
On to see if they can help us out. That's the strategy.
You didn't know you were our therapist today.
We just like buckle you in. But I wonder, like, am I? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I've been to Codependence Anonymous, but only when I was like in my lowest I've ever been in my life. I went, and like everyone went around and said like their thing, and I was like, ugh. Just like in your movie where you're like, I didn't really think I had an issue. I was like, no, these fucking weirdos.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
They're like, oh, my dad doesn't this and that, and then they go, your turn, and I go. And I start crying.
Oh, yeah.
Some black lady goes, oh, you, sir, are codependent. And she hugged me. And I just like, and it felt so good. And I can relive that moment for the rest of my life.
That's
but I was fucked up. And it wasn't until I had to say it. I get up and I talk all day long. My throat was being strangled. Whatever adrenaline or whatever it is that your body dumps, it all went into here, and I was being choked, and I couldn't talk.
It's your throat chakra.
Yeah.
You have a blockage, a communication blockage.
I literally, and I wasn't eating. It was a whole thing. And the only time that I've gotten out of these bad spots is just going out there, eating healthy, starting to get some exercise, and then but what I'm doing is doing all the things that fuel me, that you know what I mean? Like I had to get to like that,
the key.
that horrible, and like it was always like the worst of the winter, the this, the that, and then just like as the spring's coming out, and I'm just like, oh, I'm better than this issue. This is ridiculous. And then I can just, but you know what I mean? But I have to realize that I possess that even in a relationship, knowing that you're not sort of like even rejecting me, that I still possess that ability to bring bring myself down.
Yeah, and that's having that awareness is such a already big step, because you're aware of it and it comes up, and it's okay that it comes up, and then you don't have to act on it. That's how I found myself when I have like stuff come up for me.
And now you're in a relationship now.
Yes.
How do you keep the relationship healthy and not too...
Well, what's so cool about the dating plan, what I feel like it helped with, is like our foundation is so strong and healthy, so that like, you know, since we started off not being with each other 24/7, it's like both of us really need our individual time to take care of ourselves, or we're very good at speaking up right away and having honest
listening, like if one has an issue,
yeah. And a big thing too, I feel like, especially like with codependence, is like taking each other's stuff on. We've gotten really good now about just letting the person express it, and then being able to just validate their feelings and like, you know, empathize with them, but like not try to have to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like a big deal.
Validating the feelings, that's a big deal.
It's a
just
big
be like,
one.
I believe you.
It just hushes them down as soon as you just validate of like, oh, well, that sucks. That does suck. Or like, that makes sense that you'd be feeling that way.
And so many things are out of our control. There's things that I get anxiety about, like traffic, you know, stupid stuff that's just like so out of my control. Like there's no sense being upset about it or feeling upset about it. And there's no need for you to try and chill me out in traffic. We're just going to live through this
sometimes though, because
experience.
I feel like your driving will become erratic. I'd be like, this is now a dangerous situation. Like the other night after your stupid glasses were stolen, you were weaving in and out trying to get to that Halloween party. We had a big rainbow she painted in the backseat. We went out as a double rainbow.
Oh, wow.
So she's like mad, and I'm carrying
and a rainbow.
I'm literally holding a double giant rainbow. It's the size of the car.
I just needed to feel my feelings for a minute.
And she's looking for her glasses. She takes the rainbow out and throws it on the ground. I'm like, the irony here. You're breaking a rainbow in half. No, but I understand. Like, yeah, it's about being on the same team. But also, I mean, are there times when you can validate the other one's opinion, but also be like, not their opinion, but you can validate their feelings, but also, you know, at one point, guys, we love to fix things. When do you let your boyfriend start to work on the fixing side of things, or
there's
not
nothing
at all?
to fix though, because that's just like, it always makes it worse when he tries to fix it.
Yeah.
So I would always just rather. So when we were doing couples therapy, we did this kind of therapy called Imago, which is so you learn how to have these intimate, difficult conversations in a very safe, structured way, and it's just one person saying their stuff, the other person kind of repeating it back, then validating the feelings, and then empathizing with them, like saying, I imagine that's really hard, or I imagine this is blah, blah, blah. Like, that makes sense. And, like, that's it.
So it's built on empathy and
just validating and, like, listening.
Oh, that's good.
The fixing makes it worse. It always makes it worse.
Yeah.
Then
it's tough.
Yeah.
I'm a game plan guy.
It is hard.
Oh, you don't have. This is your issue. Here we go. I got the tool belt out. I'm ready to go. But yeah, and that's not. And that's always it's like whatever someone's problems are, it's probably, that's just like the reaction to what their inner problems are. So fixing that's just putting a Band-Aid on it, really. We should try that. We don't do that.
No, we don't do that. That would be really interesting to try.
In fact, I would say that's probably our weakest point as a couple, is our ability to
validate,
because we get scared of each other's emotions.
Well, and also I would say, like, whenever we have an argument or like feel like I'm very quick with an apology, and I feel like he is very slow with an apology.
I understand you feel that way.
I think that's a component of feeling validated, is like that I recognize that I did something that was wrong or thoughtless or whatever it was, recognizing that this happened, admitting to it, and then we move on.
Yeah.
You know,
but like last night,
you just want the validation. What are you talking about
last night? I had some granola, some coconut granola thing. I ate something, and then she goes, oh, why did you eat that? Blah, blah, blah. And I go, it was coconut granola, like, and she thought it was the edible macaroons
that he's already eaten the entire bag of.
And I don't really, my emotion when I was like, no, and she immediately knew she was arguing about the wrong thing. She goes, well, then I take that back.
No, I said disregard.
I was like, you don't disregard emotions like that. I don't know.
Disregard. My bad. Sorry.
So how do you get? Well, okay. I have a few questions. In today's world, I believe I am a feminist in the sense that I believe people can do whatever they want with their bodies, and of course, there's more to it than that. But in the world now, it's like, I'll fuck whoever I want, you know, and that might work for some people, but it's a very traditional way of thinking to talk about your dating plan. It's very traditional. Yeah. And a lot of people might be like, you know, how do you defend that when people are saying, just do whatever the fuck you want, fuck them.
Well, okay.
It's your body.
You know, what I think is that if that works for you, great. Everyone should be
if you feel healthy, if you're not impacting anyone else in a negative way.
Just like do you. But if it's not working for you, like it did for me, of like just not working and I'm destroying myself and I think I'm going to kill myself, like there's this other way to try that's worth trying.
Yeah, it's time to reevaluate. Even for people who don't have a problem, you know, I really believe that like setting a foundation, just like you were talking about, changes the dating game. It changes it. It really sets you up for success in a way that like all of this other stuff kind of sets you up for failure.
Now, when you're hitting your bottom, when it's at the lowest of the low, when you're in your first 30 days, I mean, any clue that you would have been starring opposite an Academy nominated and an Academy winning actors, Melissa Leo and John Hawke?
No.
Like, I mean, at what point do you feel like this movie's coming out November 1st?
Yes.
Which is, I believe, Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah.
The morning after Halloween. Amazing. Like what the more, you know what? That's actually symbolic because November 1st is the morning when you're wiping off the makeup.
Stumbling home.
Who you were pretending to be. And you're finding your real person. You're hungover.
When you get out of your sexy nurse costume and put on his regular clothes.
And you're I made a short years ago called November 1st, and it's just me in a cat suit, like in a female's like cat suit, meeting all these other people, like, you know, heckling me for my walk of shame, and then I meet a cat woman also on a walk of shame. It was a very love moment. But yeah, but that's interesting that it's coming out. I mean, I like, what point does this reality hit that like you've made this project? And I know like independent films can be a long process. How long has it been?
It's been so crazy because, you know, when I first met Marc, it was January 2015, the same month that I decided to start taking recovery seriously because I almost killed myself. So it's like that was almost 4 years ago. So it's been such a long journey because I've had so many different moments. Because even like when we started shooting the film in 2016, I could not even believe, like, I'd be in a scene and then I just would be like checking out and be like, what? Melissa Leo's talking to me right now. Like, I'm really like, what's happening right now?
She's so good.
Why am I here? Like, it was so weird. But there was like one morning that I even drove to set and I just started crying because I just couldn't even believe it. Like, I was so grateful of like, how did I even get here?
Yeah, how does gratitude work into all of these emotions during your recovery process?
It's just it's so overwhelming.
Because it's literally the exact opposite of the guilt that you feel, that guilt when you're failing, when you're looking at your ex's social media to now being grateful for the choices you've made.
Absolutely, because it just took everything that I've ever lived and turned it into something good. You know, you're taking the darkness and transmuting it into light. So it makes everything completely worth it, and I wouldn't change any of it because it got me to now, and now is awesome.
Now,
and it's sort of like for people who are into the law of attraction, it's like you're spending all of this time in recovery, focusing on yourself, doing all of these positive things. And, you know, I like to believe that good begets good.
Absolutely.
You know, when you're working on yourself, more things are going to come to you that are good for you.
Work on yourself.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, my mantra is leap and the net will appear. So it's all about just like taking that risk when you believe in yourself and when you feel ready for it. And you only take it at the exact moment that's right for you. A lot of listeners have their own issue with whatever it is they're searching for. Not everyone's trying to make a movie with Academy Award winners, and that's the LA we live in. It's like, well, if I'm a sex addict, I might as well have an Oscar. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's amazing, but it's like everyone's got their own slice of reality that they're trying to recover from their issues, whether it's sex addiction or gambling or porn or whatever it is. We've all got something. I mean, like it's a great example for people, not just in the sex addiction world, but in the world of just like a woman who's trying to own her shit and like be, you know, like, so a lot of times when you reach these levels of enlightenment, friends either come with you or they don't.
Right.
Like, did you lose a lot of friends when you had to get in this sober mindset?
Absolutely. That's a big part of recovery, I feel like, or like the people that don't necessarily align with that kind of just fade away because what are you talking?
Party's over.
What are you talking about now that you're not like talking about who to hook up with.
Or getting drunk or whatever it is.
And they might need that as well to hit their level where they need to become a better version of themselves, or they just decide that they're just going to be a flat kind of like that's who they are for the rest of their life. And sometimes people don't find that till their deathbed. My dad was like that till his deathbed, where then he kind of like was like, oh fuck, like I fucked up all these things, and it was like, well, that was enough time, that was good, you know what I mean? But if you can figure this out in your earlier years, it's a little bit better. But also there's people like your parents who you don't get, you know, you can graduate from your college friends or from certain friends, but you have your parents. Have they watched the film? Have they seen how they're portrayed?
Well, my dad passed away in 2006.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And then my mom moved back to the Philippines after he passed away. And I'm not very close with my family. I think that's kind of common in a lot of addicts' experience. But I'm not very close with my family. But they're polite and supportive about it from afar, you know, the best that they can be.
And your support system here, besides your sponsor, did you have some close friends that were...
Well, what's so cool now is that I have my chosen family here. So there's a couple who I kind of consider as my sponsor. They're a couple in their 70s that live in Encino. And about 5 years ago, I met them even before I started recovery. And they basically saved my life and taught me how to love myself and forgive everybody, forgive myself, get rid of the shame, all the basic stuff. And... I still see them for dinner every Sunday, and I call them my spirit parents.
So cool.
And they've like seen the movie so many times and like cry every time, and they're so proud of me. Like that's my family.
Are you No, were you born in the Philippines?
No, I was born in San Jose.
Okay, because I look at, you know, like being from New England, the Catholic stamp on upbringing is so strong there. Our friend Gilbert is from, his parents are from the Philippines, and I know he's got a very specific stamp of like how they were raised. I know tiger moms. Everyone's got the thing that fucked them, that fucked their generation up. And so like talking about sex, not going to happen. Barely got a birds and the bees talk. We, you know, my mom rented us we got like a book from the library that was like a cartoon book of how sex was made. You know? And it was like when a man loves a woman, and I was like, what I'm like 7, and I'm like, what? My sister's laughing. It was the strangest thing, but my mom tried. She tried. Right. But I had an aunt who's an actress, moved out to LA, and like the whole family's in New England. She's in LA. She had, you know, a sex addiction and drugs and 80s, 90s, that whole thing. And she had to kind of be the odd child who actually came out and got into recovery. Like that just wasn't something that existed in the religious sense, which is weird because I think the principles of the 12-step programs, a lot of them are based on the Bible, and they're based on, aren't they based on a lot of the same principles of religion?
I see it as a spiritual program more than a religious program, but I don't remember much about it.
In AA, they do ask you to believe in a higher power.
Yeah,
whether
it's the same,
that be
but
God.
I see that as spiritual.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's not exactly. It's like it's about you and not the group, like how you work for it. Well, that's interesting. Did I miss anything? I want to make sure I got everything. And so it's going to be released in theaters on Thursday, and then streaming. Where's it going to be streaming?
iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Vudu, Microsoft on November 2nd.
Amazing. So... Oh, and I wrote down the one quote I wrote down was, I think John Hawke said it in the movie, the whole world is a trigger. I just loved that quote. I really did. Because you were like talking about he goes, the whole world's a trigger.
Yeah.
And it really is. Like we live in this world. We share it with each other. Tasha, your traffic is a trigger. You live in Los Angeles. We've all got, I had to realize with stand-up.
No, but that's why you learn to manage. That's why doing the work is so important. Because the triggers aren't going away.
I dance with the devil every time I get on stage, where I could come home and just be like, man, fuck that guy. Or you know what I do is my thing is I'll look on social media, see all the highlights of other people in the industry, and think that they're just outperforming me. And it does got nothing to do with me. And that's what it is. It's got nothing to do with me. Was that part of yours where you had like you weren't so much comparing with others, but like seeing some happy person on their wedding day? Is that something that would set you off? Like some people just can't even be happy for others because it's like why don't I have that?
It's so easy to compare yourself, especially in this town when all your friends are like getting jobs, and like you're like, well, maybe next year.
And I finally got into that with the like seeing diamond rings and seeing like, you know, some guy like buddies of mine, we all went to the same business school, but I do this and they're out there, you know, on the stock exchange. I'm like, oh, well, it must be nice to get done at 5 p.m. at night. It must be nice to make all that money. But like that, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? I am happy. I'm living my dream, but it comes at the price of like, you know, being a part of like the freelance culture and the you have to believe in yourself way more than anyone else because you're not on the salary or on the payroll. You know what I mean? So like I think my own addictions, it's been more of like a battlefield being in this industry, making me like face them, where I feel like a lot of people don't have to necessarily face their addictions because they get that 9 to 5 or they get that, you know, salary, and they can just like sort of, I don't know, mask. I don't know.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
That's what's cool about the comparing is in the end, you have no idea. And that's what I feel like has been so cool about 12-Step is like hearing people's stories, because then you see somebody that you think they have their life together, or you see someone that you've seen in a movie or a TV, and then they're in the meeting like talking about like how they want to kill themselves too. Like, and you have that in common. Like, it's like you don't know what people are fighting.
And here I am still trying to compare to others. No, but you're so right. And it's all about, and look, like in social media, you know, we put our best stuff out there. I think at least with the podcast is we try to validate like every conversation we have. I'm always aware of not wanting to come off as the perfect couple or perfect whatever, because like I'm not one of those guys who's like a salesman, like, dude, you got to do this, everything's great. It's like, no, like you know what I mean?
We're
like,
figuring it out too, and like the real and raw is what people appreciate, and it resonates with them. I think that's why your movie is so powerful. It's real and raw. It's honest.
And it's not unlovable. It's very lovable. But the movie's called Unlovable. The film's called Unlovable. Comes out November 1st, streaming November 2nd. I'll put all the details in the description. But thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me.
And like
it was really great talking to you.
Your social media or anything else you need to plug? What's your social media? So
you can follow me on Twitter, Charlene.
Okay, and I'll put a link to that as well. And again, everyone, go support her and listen. You know, watch the movie. It was awesome. It was great. It was great to get to chat with you. And like we'll see what's next. Everybody, that's the Sex Action Podcast. Bye.
Take care.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
It's really, I wish every movie we watched we could get our questions answered. And can we do a group photo?
Oh yeah.
Let's do that. Oh, Boom was sitting right behind you.